Hi, my name's Aiden.
And I'm Jake.
And welcome to History and Haunts. Hello.
Welcome back to episode 6.
I forgot what we were doing. Welcome to episode 6 of History and Haunts. There we go.
Woohoo!
Yay! Guys, before we get going, I just need to talk about the emotional turmoil I just went through. I basically experienced a death in the family. If anyone watches Outlander, episode 10 of season 7,
You're going to spoil it?
I'm not spoiling it. You'll know what I'm talking about. I'm basically experiencing what Claire went through. I was in denial. I couldn't believe this was real.
Didn't you read the book?
Yes, and then my mom reminded me that I read the book, and she was like, has this happened in the book yet? And I was like, what book is this season even about? So then I Googled it because I've read all the books, so it's not really a spoiler for me. And I learned the truth, and everything is much better now. But for a while there, I literally was so sad. I was going to enter a depressive episode.
Well, thank God you didn't do that.
Yeah, thank God I didn't. Thank God what we think happened didn't actually happen. Because that would have been too much.
They left you on like a cliffhanger?
They did. It's the saddest cliffhanger of my life. But then I realized.
But it turns out okay.
Yes.
Well, considering that the show, correct me if I'm wrong, is about teleportation, I think it's going to be all right.
I think that is a very dumbed down version of what the show is about. But
exactly.
Since this is not a podcast about Outlander, and hopefully you all can't hear that obnoxiously loud truck outside, we're not going to go in depth about what Outlander's about.
Look who it was.
It was the asshole.
Mm-hmm.
That's who the truck was, by the way, guys.
Yeah.
All I will say is Outlander is a 10 out of 10 show, and everyone needs to watch it. It's an experience that everyone should have in their life. And if you don't, you're really missing out.
I tried it. It's pretty boring.
You never...
it up.
Did you ever actually try it?
I've seen it a few brief moments while we watched it.
Yeah, you need to start episode 1.
Not missing much.
We can even go episode by episode, and I will watch it all again with you.
No.
You might like it.
We should watch...
The Titanic?
Yeah, I've never seen that.
Outlander?
But I was talking Game of Thrones.
Oh my gosh, we actually can watch that. I will watch that with you.
We can watch it?
Yeah, we can watch it.
What's it on?
I don't know. I'm just saying, I would be open to watching it.
Yeah.
Let's watch it tonight when we eat dinner.
I don't think we have access to it.
Is it on, HBO or something?
I think it's on one of those ones. It might be on Hulu, but I think it's on, one of those ones we don't have.
We'll have to check. The reason why I'm open to watching it is because I listen to this other podcast called History for Weirdos, and they mentioned it. So now I'm game to watch Game of Thrones. But, how everyone's watched Game of Thrones?
Yes.
It's kind of nice to be able to say, no, I've never watched Game of Thrones. It makes you mysterious. You've never watched
That does not sound like what a mysterious person sounds like. It needed to chill.
You know what is mysterious?
What?
What we're going to be talking about today.
That's right. That's right.
Look at that good old segue. So we're doing something a little different today. Do you want to know why?
Why?
There's no actual recorded hauntings at this location.
This podcast is rigged.
Now you may be wondering, well, Aiden, why are you covering a place that is not haunted when this is a haunted podcast? And I'll tell you, the answer is because we are covering a ghost ship. I think that falls into the category. A ship is cool. We went on a ship recently. And, yeah, it'll be nice.
Yeah.
So, we're going back in the day to Sweden, okay? Sweden was a very poor country with a very low population.
How much we talking?
I don't know, but I can Google it for you if you'd like.
Sure.
Okay, guys, we're back. I don't really know where I got the information from that Sweden was a low population country. because according to this website, World Population Review, there was 766,200 people, which I guess that's not that
That's
many.
pretty low. I may be wrong on this, but isn't there currently like, I don't know, like 30 million people in Florida alone?
Oh my gosh, I don't know.
You know, like just one singular state has like millions of people.
That's crazy. You're probably right. I guess hundreds of thousands of people sounds like a lot, but when you put it into perspective, it's really not.
Yeah.
Today, Sweden has a population of about 10.6 million, according to Worldometer. I don't know how
Fair
accurate
enough.
these sources are. Anyway, so I guess Sweden didn't really have a lot of people back in the day. It gained some power during the 17th century and became the dominant power of the Baltic area. During this time, when this in the 1600s, there was this war going on called the 30 Years' War.
I've heard of that.
I don't know much about it, but what I can tell you is that it lasted 30 years, hence the name, from 1618 to 1648. It was a very, very long war, and it was super destructive. And like most wars, it was conflict over either politics, religion, and territory.
Sounds like what today's wars are over.
Yeah. I would love if no one ever fought a war again. I think they're just overall terrible. And it doesn't seem like it's changing. Back in the day, they were terrible. Today, they're terrible.
Yeah, still.
Yeah.
Ukraine war's still going on, man.
I know.
I remember when that thing started, you know, like almost, what was it? Had to have been like 4 years ago.
It's been a while. We
I
can't
think
talk
about
about it
4
too much,
years.
or we're going to get put on a list.
All right. Well, I don't have much to say on it anyway.
Neither do I, other than that war should stop. That's what I'll say. So at the time, Sweden was fighting with Poland, Lithuania, which it was like one country back then. And they fought with them for 8 years, from 1621 to 1629. The king, Gustavus II Adolphus, what a name. He was in power at the time, and he really wanted to win the war. And he had mostly smaller ships with single gun decks that only held small cannons. But he really wanted to develop a strong naval presence because that's what he thought he needed to win the war, which I feel like that's a reasonable thought.
Yep.
So he ordered 4 new ships to be built. I guess he wasn't that poor if he had money to build 4 ships.
Well,
maybe his citizens were poor and he wasn't.
Maybe they were that expensive to make, though.
I don't know. Maybe not. Yeah, but back in the day, that was like a valuable thing, you know?
Well, there was a large, you know, just a lot of wood.
I suppose, yeah. Deforestation hadn't happened yet. So the king ordered 2 small ships and 2 big ships to be built. He was like, give me 2 each. But he kept changing his orders, so everything kept being like super complicated. He just couldn't make up his mind. So on September 10th, 1625, the Swedish Navy actually lost 10 ships. And the king was like, shit, we barely had like ships to lose and now we lost 10. So he told them that the smaller ships needed to be built faster. But then he heard that the Danish were building a 2-gun deck ship. And so then, of course, he changed his plans again.
To a 3-deck ship?
You got to keep up, you know?
Yep.
Can't let the enemy outdo you in your ship decks. He didn't order a 3-deck ship to be built, but what he did order was for one of the ships to be built even bigger with 2 gun decks. It would be 135 feet long and known as the Vasa. Oh, I don't actually think I ever told you guys what we're talking about. We're talking about the Vasa Warship. I just told you it was a ghost ship. This ship is called the Vasa Warship.
Oh, okay.
Oopsies. Anyway, so no modified plans were ever found for this ship, so it is assumed that they just started building the bigger ship without any planning. Maybe because, you know, the king kept changing things, they didn't really have time to formulate new plans. I don't know, but I thought that was interesting. They were just winging it. On top of that, this type of shipbuilding was brand new to Sweden and new to Europe, so no one really had any experience building ships of this size. Basically, it was all like one big experiment.
Yeah.
The ship was gorgeous, and it was a show of power. It really showed the enemy, like, Sweden is here to win, basically. It was very richly decorated. They say that it was painted with vivid colors. It had sculptures up to 10 feet in size. There were actually 500 sculptors on board who were,
Decorating this thing?
or sculptures, I guess I should say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, sculptures, not
Yes.
sculptors.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I mispronounced.
That was a drastic change of like how I was imagining this.
Same, but there were 500 sculptures decorating the ship. I didn't realize that warships were so decorated.
They probably are when they're not used for war. Which is
Yeah.
probably a reason why this thing sank, because he was focused on how good it looked.
Yeah, it just seems like you may want to focus on how your ship is going to do, not on the looks. But
Yeah, my main goal would be defense and attack power.
yeah, and you know what's not gonna
Design would be
you?
an afterthought.
Sculptures are not going to aid in defending you.
No, they're going to weigh you down. You
Yeah.
know, who knows how much that ship weighed.
I bet.
I'm interested to see how this thing fought, because, like, that's cool. It looks cool, but come on, man.
Yeah, I'm guessing it didn't go too well since it's now a ghost ship. So, along with the 500 sculptures on board, there were also 72 24-pound guns to be boarded, along with almost 2,000 pounds of gunpowder.
Dang.
If we're being specific, 1,970 pounds of gunpowder. That's a lot. And 1,000 plus ammos. Is that a word, ammos? Ammunitions, I guess?
Maybe, yeah.
Back in the 1600s, I don't know what they would count as ammunition, like a whole cannonball?
It's probably because 1,000 rounds is not a lot at all, depending on what you're talking about.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Like 1,000 rounds of 9mm is not a lot in comparison to 1,000 cannonballs, because that's a lot of cannonballs.
Well, the guns were 24 pounds, so I'm guessing they were probably bigger guns.
Heavy artillery, yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. He probably had 500 sculptors sculpting those cannonballs.
He probably does. There were also 64 bronze cannons, even though the ship was only meant to hold 36.
Yeah, no wonder this thing went down, man. This sounds like a disaster.
I know.
Do you have a picture of this ship that I can see?
Yeah, let me get you one. Like right now?
No.
Okay.
No. Just I'll look at it when you post it.
Okay. Yeah. So obviously there was a big focus on looks, not necessarily how seaworthy the ship is or how stable it is. All of that stuff that you would consider to be very important was kind of like a second thought to the king.
That's ridiculous.
I know. The gun deck was extremely heavy, and the top of the ship was much wider than the bottom. Which, you look at ships nowadays, and I feel like the top is always wider than the bottom. But I'm also not a ship constructioner.
The only thing I would say to that is, they come to like a tip, like at the bottom.
Yeah.
And that's probably where a lot of weight is to keep it from flipping over.
Yeah. I just look at like the cruise ship I went on, that thing was also very wide at the top, and it looked to me pretty narrow on the bottom, but maybe like the proportions of this one were not proportional, It was just an oddly proportioned ship, I suppose. There was a dude named Henrik Hybertson who died midway through construction, and the king was rushing things, and everyone else who was building the ship had no experience. So, as you can see, this ship was essentially a disaster waiting to happen.
It sounds like it, man. I bet it never even saw a fight, man.
Maybe it didn't. Who knows? I guess we'll have to find out. The Vasa was eventually completed, surprisingly, and they did test it for stability, so they were doing something, There were no set in stone methods, though, for testing things like stability or where the center of gravity is, or healing. I don't know what healing is, but I'm assuming it's some ship term, The center of gravity on this ship was much higher than it should have been due to the weird dimensions, so that's not good, because as you can imagine, I relate this to riding horses, but center of gravity is really important to prevent you from tipping over. And I would think somewhat applies the same to ships.
Yeah, you need like a lower center of gravity.
Yeah, I would imagine a lower center of gravity is pretty important. Just because, like, if the ship is too top heavy, I think it would just fall on its side. But again, I really know nothing about ship engineering.
You don't.
This
It's
is
basic basic human anatomy. No, it's not at all, but
you just
if you have a lower center of gravity at the base,
it's gonna stay in the water.
it's not going to flip up onto like the lesser, like on the top. It's not going to, that's not how. What's it called? I don't know what it's called. You're yawning now too.
Moving on. We're moving on from the center of gravity bullshit.
Please, I'm going to have a stroke.
So they did this test, right? Involving 30 men running from side to side on the ship. Do you think the ship passed the test?
No, that's where it sank, and that's where they got it out of the ocean.
The ship did not pass the test.
Why would they do that?
It actually failed miserably. The people did 3.
Imagine them, guys. All right, you ready? John, you ready for this,
just
John?
Hoping they don't.
We just spent 8 years constructing a ship. Let's jog 30 feet across to the other side.
Oh my god!
Didn't even work, man.
That would have been so upsetting. The people did.
Not my money. As long as I got paid for it, I'll do whatever the hell you want.
Maybe you didn't. If you know how the kings are. The people did 3 rounds of running, and the Vasa started rocking so badly that they had to stop the test. And you know what's really great about this?
What?
No one knew how to fix this issue.
That was exactly what I was about to say. What did they do to fix that? How do you fix that? Because this is what I think. This is what I think of immediately. Is like they redneck tied some sandbags to the bottom of the ship to give it more weight. That's the only thing I could think of.
They didn't do that. You know what they did?
What? Nothing.
They said, this ship's good to go. And the king of Poland had started a war campaign, so the king of Sweden was like, hey, you guys got to get this ship done. And he was really laying the pressure on them. And no one knew how to fix the ship anyway. So they were like, yeah, this ship's good. And they gave it the go-ahead. The Vasa's maiden voyage was on August 10th, 1628, with Captain Suffring Hansen. It should have been a great trip, actually, because the weather was perfect. But she was hit with a strong gust of wind, and she heeled. So I'm thinking heeling means the ship tips to the side.
That's probably what it means.
Yeah. She was able to right herself after the first gust of wind, though. But then a second, stronger gust of wind came, and she heeled again. And this time she heeled far enough that water entered the lower gun deck, and she took on enough water that she wasn't able to right herself.
And it sunk.
Yep. It did not even get to see battle.
I knew it. I called it.
It barely got out of anywhere, and she sunk.
It sunk 50 feet from where they built it.
Yeah, basically. She sunk 105 feet deep. After only making it... You ready for this? It was a drum roll. After making it 390 feet from shore. They barely made it anywhere. 30 people died, which is really unfortunate.
How did 30 people die? They just couldn't swim that far back?
Well, think about, like, when
the sharks?
No. Think about, like, think about the pressure of the water. The water, like, when a ship goes down, it's going to pull you with it, I would think.
Oh, well, I guess I'm more so, like, imagining them, like, standing on top. If they were in the ship...
The ship, you're standing on the floor, the ship goes sideways, now you're sideways trying to escape. It's probably not that easy to just get out.
No, not at all.
So, there were survivors, though, and they clung to the upper masts and to debris. There was a big crowd watching, actually, so this was a huge embarrassment for the king. Yeah. There was foreign ambassadors, they had spies for the enemy, allies, and just enemies as well watching. So the king was pissed. He was so mad because not only did he spend all this time on the ship, but now it just sank in front of everyone.
He was on it too?
No.
Oh, okay.
I think it's his fault, though, because he was rushing them.
Yeah, it was his fault, but they also lied.
True. They put the captain and the crew on trial, but everyone kept blaming each other, actually. So no one was found guilty, in part because the original contractor was dead. So since he was the original builder and he was dead, it's like, well, who are we really going to blame?
Yeah.
And
Let's kill all those other survivors, though, bobbing out there in the ocean.
and the king had overseen the construction, so he was just as guilty as the rest of them.
I foresee a death coming.
More than the 30 deaths that already happened?
Yes.
Maybe. I don't know. Let's see. So, 3 days after the sinking, there was a contract signed to try and get the ship out of the water, but it was unsuccessful. They could not retrieve the ship.
Shocker. They couldn't fix the ship.
They couldn't build the ship. They couldn't fix the ship. Why do they think that they would be able to get it out of the water?
Yeah. Nobody's getting that shit.
Especially back in the 1600s. What are they going to do? Swim down there?
They don't have no fucking. They don't have no 2-to-1 system or fucking a ratchet strap.
They got nothing.
They got nothing. They got ropes and hands
and horses. That's all they got.
How do you even get it out now?
I don't know.
You know.
Part of the issue though was it was super stuck in the mud. So if they wanted to pull it out, they really couldn't because it was like a suction cup. They instead made recovery efforts during 1663 to 1665, mainly to get the valuables such as bronze cannons. And this was successful. There were a few more recovery attempts throughout the years, but eventually the ship was forgotten. However, an amateur marine archaeologist named Anders Franzen and Per Edvin Falting were super interested and ended up finding her in August 1961 using a homemade core sampler. How cool would it be to just find a lost ship?
A core sampler? So this thing was like buried?
I believe it was at least partially covered. But maybe they also let me look up what a core sampler is. But I'm thinking, like maybe they take a piece of it to test like what year it is.
Oh, that makes sense.
Because then they could do carbon dating. Was carbon dating a thing back in the 1960s?
I don't know.
I don't know either. So a core sampler is a specialized tool used to extract cylindrical samples of soil or sediment from the ground. They may have had like debris surrounding the ship as well, you know? And that could have come up in their core sample.
Yeah.
Yeah. The ship was found 333 years later. So it had been down there for a long time.
That is crazy, man.
The recovery process was very difficult and very labor intensive. They actually had divers dig tunnels underneath the ship.
That is actually pretty cool.
That is so claustrophobic sounding. First of all, you're underwater in scuba gear, and now you're digging under a ship. No, thank you.
You know, I used to have claustrophobia issues, but you know, it doesn't really bother me anymore.
That's because you're a firefighter. You can't be claustrophobic.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, man. They weed out the people that are. Let me tell you.
Yeah, you couldn't be claustrophobic and be a firefighter because you are always showing me things of like small spaces.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, they dug tunnels to put the steel slings under the ship so that they could like hoyer it out.
Okay.
They did a total of 1,300 dives, and then they had to do 18 lifts to get her out.
You know what though? Like that's so cool. That stuff's so cool to me,
isn't it?
That's very interesting.
I think it's
to be a part of that, to like touch history and help get it out.
Yeah, it would be so fun.
That sounds like a great time. I would love to get paid to do that.
I
wouldn't do it for free, but I would get paid to do it.
Yeah, it would be cool to like just you found this old ship.
Yeah, and let's get it out.
Yeah. The final lift was done on April 8th, 1961. And they finally...
So they took them less than a year to get it out then?
Yeah, less than a year.
It probably, took them a couple weeks or something, you think? If you're at something all day long...
Hold on. Guys, I just realized my dates may be wrong.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Because
Okay.
they found her in August 1961, but the final lift was done in April 1961.
That's what I'm saying. It could have taken them like a couple days or something.
August is after April.
Huh?
You see what I'm saying?
It's close enough.
But
I got what you were saying.
it goes January, February, March, April.
Oh my god, you don't gotta. I know it. Okay, I know him.
So that's not possible.
Well, yes, maybe it literally is just a switch, and it took them like 3 months to do it.
Maybe I wrote
April
it down.
found, August excavated.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe I meant April 1962. I don't really know what I meant. Well, now I'm wondering what the actual answer is. I'll get back to you guys. Maybe. You would think that after 333 years underwater, the ship would be in shambles, but she was surprisingly well preserved. I think depending on like the water temperature and how much stuff is covering it, it really protects it quite well.
Yeah.
Kind of like the Titanic.
And when you're down that far, like hurricanes and whatnot, I feel like they're not really going to affect it.
Yeah. Yes. 95% of the wood was still intact when the ship was raised.
So the ship was intact 95%,
yes,
pretty much.
Basically. Isn't that impressive?
Well, I guess because like it wasn't like destroyed, it was just sank.
Yeah, it's not like it was shot with cannons and whatever. It was just sunk. So there's a few factors that we can thank for the ship being so well preserved. One, the water was super polluted, and so most microbial life was unsustainable.
Oh, okay.
So nothing was there to really damage the ship. And then two, the Baltic Sea is really cold and it's super oxygen poor, meaning that bacteria and worms that normally digest wood were not present. They found a lot of stuff from the multiple archaeological digs that they did, and they found at least 15 skeletons.
Wow.
So that's still 15 unaccounted people for, though, that sunk with the ship. Most of the remains were kept together by clothes, but there was actually a bit of hair and even brain matter found.
That is crazy.
That is so cool. I would have loved to see that.
Yeah.
4 of the skeletons were outside the ship in the mud, and 2 of the skeletons were women, and 1 was even a child.
Wow.
Not all of the skeletal remains were human, though. They found cats, birds, pigs, cows, and even fish bones. So lots of different animals were likely kept on the ship.
The fish bone was probably from after it sunk, though, I would imagine.
Or they had like fish.
Food to
Yeah,
eat.
they could
Like
have had that.
they didn't have a pet fish on that thing, dude.
No, but they also didn't have a pet pig. It was likely there to kill later.
Obviously, but I'm saying they didn't have a fish swimming around in a bowl in the ship. I don't.
You never know.
No.
No, it was there for food, I'm sure. Lots of items.
Or it was in the ocean and it died exploring the ship.
I guess that could be it too, but I'm going to think it was their food.
Okay.
Lots of other items were found that gave them a look into what life was like at the time on the ship. They found clothing, coins, cutlery, food and drink, and even some chests.
Ooh, what was in the chests?
Coins.
All right.
Clothes.
That would be so cool to find an old chest.
Oh.
You like open that thing up. Oh my, there's like gold in there.
It'd be amazing. It'd be so cool. I'd love to find one with like old letters and stuff.
Oh, that would be so cool.
I know. And they also had some warship related stuff that they found. They found 6 out of the 10 sails. They found lots of weapons, some cannons that the previous, people weren't able to retrieve, and even some tools. There were 4 preserved decks in total. So that included the upper and lower gun decks, which I thought that was awesome.
That's very cool.
They found 3 cannons in total, and they found some spare rigging, too, for the ship. Were those 500 sculptures?
Yeah.
They found some of those.
Just some of them?
They found some of them in the mud.
Wow. What happened? There was like 500 of them.
I don't know. Maybe they got decayed or something.
Yeah, maybe they were built out of something.
Maybe they broke.
Yeah,
Who knows?
I just feel like if the ship was intact, why weren't all the sculptures intact, too?
I don't know. Maybe when it sunk, it scattered off,
Maybe.
Some of the sculptures, though, still had paint on them since they were protected from the current, like the ones that were inside the ships. inside the ship.
Yeah.
How cool is that?
That's so cool, dude.
Mm-hmm. They found a 39-foot longboat that was thought to have gotten pulled down when the Vasa sank. And that's what I was saying. Like, it's not easy to escape a ship because you get pulled with it.
I know what you're saying.
This whole other boat got pulled with it. Despite the fact that the ship survived being in the sea that long, today it does face some struggles and it is slowly decaying. They are trying to preserve it by spraying the inside of the ship with polyethylene glycol.
Okay.
Isn't that Miralax?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I swear I give this to my patients. I give them polyethylene something. Maybe it's not glycol, but I swear that sounds like Miralax. Polyethylene glycol. See? It is. Polyethylene glycol is Miralax.
Wow, you solved the world's problems.
So are they spraying the inside of this with the laxative? It's probably a different polyethylene
Probably,
glycol.
because medicine is animal product.
I just think that's so weird.
There's weirder things. People are dying, okay? That's pretty cool.
It is cool, but I'm just so confused.
This, not people dying. It's not cool.
No. The warship's cool. By spraying the ship with the polyethylene glycol, it replaces the water inside the wood to prevent it from shrinking.
That's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool.
Wait, so why is it decaying? Because of the bugs and shit eating it?
Well, just you took it out of its environment where it was being preserved.
Into a very controlled environment. Probably in a glass case somewhere.
Yeah, but it's wood. It's a big ship. It's not in a glass case, but
I guess. No, you're right. Because them abandoned houses on the side of the road look like pretty disgusting.
The water didn't have any bacteria. It was really cold and oxygen poor. So you take it out and now there's oxygen, bacteria, all sorts of stuff.
No, you're right. Makes sense.
Today, the wooden hull is weakening and the wood used to build the ship is weaker to begin with than regular oak wood. They used some different type of wood that isn't super strong.
The cheap stuff, probably.
Yeah, they did. Like the stuff that they build the houses with nowadays.
Plywood?
Yeah, that. The cause of decay, here's your answer, is thought to be caused by iron leaking out of the ship's bolts and fixtures. And then the iron combines with the oxygen and it creates a highly reactive substance that is eating away at the cellulose in the wood. Very scientific.
That sounds like it, dude.
Yeah. Today they have the ship in a special museum that is climate controlled to protect it. But they're doing their best to prevent the decay. But it still happens.
Yeah, well, it's going to happen with everything, you know?
Mm-hmm. So while the ship does not have any ghosts, the story of the Vasa is haunting. And I can't imagine seeing this big shape just emerge out of the water after 333 years.
You've been practicing saying that? I feel like you've been wanting to say that.
This whole time.
Forever.
But can you imagine that?
No.
It'd be haunting. Also, you know what else would be haunting?
What?
Finding the skeletons with hair and brain matter and just finding basically their life so well preserved.
Yeah, you imagine how long it took them to decay. They didn't even fully decay.
I know.
You know? Isn't that crazy?
After 300 years, there was still brain matter.
Yeah. That is crazy.
It's so wacky. That's why I chose this, because it's kind of creepy.
It is. It's very crazy.
Even though there's no ghosts. Well, guys, that's all I have on the Vasa Warship.
That was pretty interesting.
I love a good ship.
Same, I do. It's not USS Yorktown, but it's up there. I'm excited to see a picture of this. I want to see what it looks like.
Yeah, it's a cool ship.
Do you know if it had like how many interior rooms it had or anything like that?
I don't know how many.
Okay. I'll look into it.
Probably not too many. The sculptures were taking up all the space.
I would imagine. I bet if you removed them sculptures, that wouldn't have been a bad ship. That's all I'm saying.
The center of gravity might have still been off.
I don't know. 500 sculptures? If each of them sculptures weighed 100 pounds at least?
Yeah.
5,000 extra additional pounds to the left, to the right?
Yeah. It just sounds like no one knew what they were doing when they were building the ship.
I don't know.
So you ready for next week's hint?
Let's hear it.
I like this weekly hint. What do you think?
I'm confused either way.
Yeah, you are. So this place is really old. It's not in the US. It's in Ireland.
Shocker.
And there is, I believe this is the place involving the devil.
Ooh, interesting.
So I wonder if you guys can guess it. Maybe not.
Probably not. I don't even know how to say that.
Yeah. It's not that hard to say.
Well, I was just letting them know it's pretty random. I don't think I would ever guess that.
No, but maybe someone in Ireland knows of an old place with lots of history that involved the devil.
All right.
Okay, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed. If you'd like, you can follow us on Instagram. We're available on Spotify and YouTube now. And I believe Anchor.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think Spotify puts it on there. I don't really know how that works.
I've never even heard of that in my life.
So I just say Spotify and YouTube.
Cool.
We have a Gmail. If you would like to email us, we'd love to hear from you with questions, comments, concerns. If you have any experiences at any of these places, recommendations. We love a recommendation.
Absolutely.
And if you have the time, please rate, review, and subscribe to our podcast on Spotify and YouTube. That'll help us grow.
Yep. And then give her $20, wash her car, change her tires, get an oil change done, do our grocery shopping, and then everything's good to go.
Out of all that, I would like my car washed. Everything else that he just said.
No. Don't feel bad for her. She's had plenty of opportunity to wash her vehicle, and she does not.
It's like 60 degrees outside right now. I'm not.
It wasn't 60 degrees 3 weeks ago.
All right, guys. On that note, have a great day.
Yeah, have a good one. We'll see you next time.
See you next time. Bye.
Bye.